Good morning, Facebook, social media, Instagram, LinkedIn family. My name is Simeon Papalias with the REC and Royal LePage signature. And today we have the pleasure to be joined on REC Insights with Mr. Jim Brown of Royal LePage Commercial. Jim, good morning.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Tell us a quick overview of who you are and what you do on a daily basis.
So my role here at Royal LePage Commercial, I'm the managing director. And I look at it like I report to over 350 agents across the country in over 90 offices, and my job is to help them do more business.
Right on. And how do you go about helping? Like, what is Royal LePage Commercial? Obviously, I'm a Royal LePage Commercial broker, and I'm at Signature in Toronto. But there's agents, brokers all over the country that rely on kind of the data and the information that you provide. So just so our audience here is not just industry, even though like a lot of the industry people are going to benefit for some of the data that we're going to share today. It is more focused to the investor, to the commercial investor. And your credentials, I find, in who you are going to help everybody in taking a different perspective and kind of a look at the long term of how we think and how we guide the marketplace and how we guide our clients. So tell me a little bit about how you help your agents do their jobs better.
So what it is, it's about information. I think information is the primary aspect of how I attempt to do my best to support them. Simeon, like we look at our partnership that we've established with Alves, and that took over a year to put together. But who is
Alves?
Sorry, the Alves Group is an international company, and they focus on property valuations, and they provide a lot of different services, but with that they have a lot of data, and they collect data about sales of new homes and condos. They track sales of investment properties in markets, all the major markets across Canada. My role is to negotiate the deal and bring it as affordably as possible to our agents, and really encourage all of our agents to get data, get information so that we can help and be of value to our investors.
So knowledge is power. It couldn't be more simple than that, could it? I want to touch a little bit about, because this is a commercial real estate development piece that we're doing today. And I think the biggest confusion and the biggest misconception is that commercial real estate is retail real estate, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Agricultural, industrial, office, retail, multifamily, high-rise, land, anything that is real estate, that
golf
courses, gas stations, hotels.
Yes.
So commercial real estate is not so much something, it's anything real estate that people make a business out of.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter what it is. So there's residential where somebody goes to hang their hat at night. The rest of real estate is commercial real estate.
I would agree. You're right.
All right.
It's a good point. Yeah.
So I think that's something that people need to understand in order to kind of break down the scope of this conversation. Because what I want to do is, we're obviously based out of Toronto. I'm going to be Toronto-centric today, or GTA-centric. And not because I don't feel the rest of Canada deserves any detailed analysis, but I want to focus on the market that I'm in. And I encourage any and all industry leaders to do the same and engage in their market intelligence and share that with the people that they do business with every day. From a high-level market update, where is the Toronto office vacancy? Let's touch on a couple of stats that I think are important.
Let's just did a presentation, and again, part of our partnership with Alves, they have a subscription package called Insight, and they provide a tremendous amount of detail, Simeon, into the market, the vacancy, and we can look. If we look at the office market in Toronto, I like to look at it across Canada and say, across Canada, it's a balanced market. But when we focus on Toronto, balanced meaning it's relatively stable. The vacancy rate nationally hovers around 10%. But when we look at Toronto and say, okay, where were we in Q1 2018? And Toronto's a huge market. And we've got to remember that Toronto really is about the fourth largest office market in North America.
North America, that's right.
And it's basically number one or two, depending on what you want to count and what you don't want to count, in the industrial market. But when we look at Toronto and we say, okay, Q1 2018, and again, this is from Altus Group, 8.4% vacancy. Simeon, it's now down to 6.9%. But if we look at the micro markets or the sub-markets that we call downtown Toronto, the financial core, you could argue it's 1.5%.
That's right.
In my 30 years of commercial leases,
you dive even further into the tech hub, which is now King Street, into the tech hub, like right by Bay Street, anywhere, you're actually under 1%. And that's scary facts.
Yeah.
Terrifying facts.
Yeah, but like agents, there's opportunity in everything.
Yes.
Because there's value in everything. So what we're telling our clients now, Simeon, is that if you have 5 years left on your lease in that tech corridor, let's say, your lease has a lot of value. So if you need to move, if you need to grow and expand, well, you've got value in that lease because other companies want it. So it's a time for opportunity too, for all of us.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. With that data, so this is kind of the difference. You said the event was called Insight, where you're kind of going over all this information. That's funny enough that you're on REC Insights right now. That's the name of the show. But I want to dive into a couple pieces of legislation that I find very interesting. Yeah. The Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs, Steve Clark, he just put through a piece of legislation called the More Homes, More Choice Act. That went through, it's Bill 108 for the ones that want to Google it and take a look at what it actually is and what it does. And that coincides with some changes that he actually put through and got approved in record time. So for all the things that you can judge the current provincial government on, making some headway and some progress on the housing front, which is one of the biggest issues facing Ontario.
And it's facing commercial real estate too.
And this is exactly where I'm going into, because residential real estate directly impacts commercial real estate and vice versa.
Yes.
So Bill 108, the More Homes, More Choice Act, is really focused on supporting density growth and intensification in anywhere near a transit hub. Basically, they're trying to loosen up the red tape and get development through where they can put up higher density buildings, meaning high rise, of course, especially in places like downtown Toronto and Midtown, Yonge and Eglinton. So the downtown Toronto has passed, and the downtown Toronto plan is going to focus directly on rapid transit density intensification, as well as Yonge and Eglinton. The secondary plan there was changed and modified to accommodate the same. Mm-hmm. What does that mean, and what can people expect? So when we talk to investors on a daily basis, if your investor is focused on the next year, that's a speculator. As far as I'm concerned, in commercial real estate has no place with speculators. That's land. That's for people with the deepest of pockets. They can buy cornfields today to turn them into subdivisions in 20 years. The people that we engage with on a daily basis are all looking for data they can use in the next 5, in the next 10 years. And today's podcast, today's REC Insights, couldn't give somebody a clearer picture. Not maybe. The government that moves like molasses is now passing legislation in record speed to accommodate the crisis that is becoming the residential market and the rental market in Toronto. And they're trying to bring affordable housing and rental stock to the market. It's not a solution that can be done overnight. But for anybody that has a 5 to 10 year plan, I think buying real estate anywhere near transit has always been a good idea. But right now, any real estate around those transit hubs is going to be I'm not going to say 10x because now we're talking silliness. Whatever that X factor is going to be, you're going to be winning because the government is now backing it, passing it, and developers are going to go haywire trying to get those sites.
Well, and that's the opportunity. And that's where I think as agents, that's where we come in and we can help them understand the value of that property, understand the timing of it, and work with them and really help them navigate that very complicated process that, I mean, you've been doing for years and many of our other teams have been doing.
100%.
Providing value to them. Funny, it's providing value, but it's really about the valuation. I want to mention quickly, there's a lot of new supply coming onto the market in terms of office space downtown, which with the low vacancy rate now, you know, if we kind of assume the same kind of absorption of office space, then the vacancy rate's going to go up, but it's still going to go up to more of just a balanced market. If we don't get the housing, Simeon, it's my opinion, and it's just my opinion, you know, only, these companies are really going to have to take a serious look at whether they can stay in downtown Toronto. And when I say downtown, I don't mean just in the financial core. I mean anywhere in Toronto. If we don't get this fixed, and they can't, their employees, it's all about a search for talent, right? Like that's why the companies are locating downtown Toronto, because that's where a lot of the talent that helps them fuel and drive their business is. So this is really important. And I got to say, I want to say to you that I'm totally in favor of it. And let's rock and roll. Let's speed up the process and let's ensure success, not 1 year here. This is a 20-year, 30-year plan, right? And it's very important.
I just think we got to get away from the mistakes of the past, of the paralysis by analysis by both City Council, by the Ontario government. I think they're making some headway now. I think people get it that Toronto is a world-class city with world-class amenities. People want to live here. People want to work here. The companies are delivering and coming to Toronto. But unless we get the housing and we get the development to be at par, and people are ending up paying $4,000 a month for a hole in the wall up in the sky, it just can't happen. It just can't happen.
You're right.
Or else we're going to drive business out of the city. And we've seen this in other markets before.
I can share with you, I was on the phone yesterday with an agent, actually met with him downtown, actually in Toronto. He's from Calgary. 2 companies are relocating. It's not from Toronto, but they're relocating to Calgary.
Yep.
Calgary's vacancy rates in the 20 to 30%.
Right.
You can get great value there. The value for housing is less. So these companies were, I think there were 90 employees and 180 employees. Yeah. And they've left from other cities in the Western Canada to locate in Calgary.
And Calgary is not stupid. Calgary, the only reason the vacancy rates in Calgary are 20-30% is because forever and a day they were focused on cyclical energy markets, commodities.
Yep.
And right now they're stepping away from that. They're making a huge effort to bring companies to diversify what they stand for as a city. And again, like commercial real estate tells the story every time.
Yes.
Every time. It's tied to unemployment. It's tied to quality of life. It's tied to everything, the culture of a city. So Calgary is stepping in to become a more diverse city and to become a city that is not known for oil.
The agent worked with the Economic Development Group of Calgary on both these deals. They worked together as a team, and both were very successful. I see it almost like, you know, I've done a lot of work up in Markham, Vaughan, Richmond Hill. I remember back in the 90s when there was a lot.
I don't.
Of course not. But I do. And I remember a lot of companies were leaving. Property taxes was a big thing. But now we're layering on the cost of housing. And so, you know, we've got to address it and we've got to support this. And hopefully, now, where are we at? Do we need to get this ratified? Is that what the final step for this is, Simeon?
Well, they're passed. I mean, it's going to go through whatever amendments it's going to go through in modifications. But I mean, they have passed the legislation. They're passed. They did it, whatever it's called, the Royal something.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so it's passed where it's in effective June 6th for both these pieces of legislation, which one correlates with the other. But of course, it's going to go through whatever administrative. The government will still be the government. Let's not kid ourselves. But I think we're going in the right direction. I wanted I want to touch base because if people don't believe that the cost of housing is going to impact business, Google took matter into their own hands. I read an article a couple of days ago where they're starting a massive fund and they're giving lands that they own into the fund to build affordable housing, not just for their employees, but for the communities beside their offices. So they're looking at, if they're in San Francisco and the point of entry in San Francisco is $1.5 million in the valley or whatever the case may be, they know that that's not feasible. It can't last.
Exactly.
And you can't be paying an engineer out of university $350,000 a year to start, because that's not viable either. And if he doesn't make $350,000, why on earth would he ever move to Silicon Valley? He can go anywhere, get a mansion, a palace for half the money in the United States. So this is very real. We're hoping that these great news out of the Ontario government are going to help kind of resolve and start working towards a viable solution for housing in the city. And I think commercial real estate is always the leading indicator. I want to thank you so much for your time today, Jim.
My pleasure. Happy to do it again anytime.
Yeah, and I think we will. I think maybe once a quarter, once every couple of quarters, I think we do touch base on some of the big news in the industry and what we think people should really be talking about.
Yeah, super.
Super. I want to thank you again for your time. Thanks for being on REC Insights, and we'll talk to you soon, Jim. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.